sous les yeux de cette habitante, hier vers 17h, Port-au-Prince n'est plus qu'un immense rideau de poussière.
Through the recent experience of the IFRC's response to disaster operations, it was felt that we needed to build the capacity to continue to provide the leadership in our big disaster response operations from the IFRC Secretariat.
The Federation Secretariat has hired 3 experienced disaster response managers as full-time heads of emergency operations, or HEOps, who will strengthen the IFRC's strategic leadership capacity in response to major disasters.
The mandate of the HEOps is to deploy in the first phase of an emergency for 1 to 3 months to provide on-the-ground strategic and operational leadership to a movement operation. Part of that portfolio is to ensure continuity between the acute phase of the emergency and the transition to the longer-term recovery programming.
The idea about having head of emergency operations, or HEOPs as we're called, is that it provides the Federation as a whole with an opportunity to deploy people within 48 hours to provide humanitarian leadership, strategic leadership, planning of emergency operations, together with all the involved actors. It's also an opportunity to strengthen the coordination on the ground so that there's good cooperation and we maximize the resources available between the hosting national society, the zone, and the PNSS and the Federation as such.
One of the real privileges of our jobs is that we get to work with our national societies throughout the world. So we are able to work with some of the best local domestic disaster response organizations in the world. The elements are still the same, the basic elements of taking a look at what people need and not what we think they need, of listening to the affected people and what are they saying they need.
These head of emergency operations will also help identify and nurture the new pool of operations leaders within the IFRC.
Within this new role as a head of emergency operations, my first deployment is going to be to the Sahel food security crisis, which is going to be a new challenge for me. My last operational deployment having been Haiti, where the entire world was driven to mobilize its resources to the operation on the ground. So in the world of the Red Cross, whereas Haiti was really about channeling the power of humanity, the challenge in the Sahel would be to mobilize it and gather the resources and the momentum necessary to meet the needs of all these millions of people who are affected by the drought right now.
We look at speed and listening, and we do that within the framework guided by our principles.